folks, that is abnormal. So, there's never been an earthquake that affected all of the world. In a normal, natural earthquake, there's one part of the world where a section of the Earth's crust breaks, and when it breaks, those two sections of Earth slide against each other, and that's what causes the earthquake. Well, this is going to be that all over the world, from America to Japan to Australia to Antarctica, the Atlantic, the Pacific, all over the world. It's as if God wraps His hand around the planet Earth, and like it's a stress ball, He goes to squeeze it. And as He squeezes it, the crust of the Earth, all over the Earth, it begins to crumble, it begins to crack, it begins to break, and the whole world shakes and flops around. The word there for earthquake is the word seismos, and it literally means a violent shaking or a shaking to death. This is rumbling like the world has never seen. Buildings, homes, factories, things that were not already destroyed in the world in the war. Well, now they're going to get shaken down to pieces, crushing whoever's below them or whoever's in them. Bridges, they're going to come shaking down to the ground, and so will the people in the cars on the bridges come crashing down. Another thing is these massive fault lines are going to begin to crack open all over the earth. Like if you were in space, are you playing this in your mind like a video? Because that's kind of what I've tried to do as I've been studying this. If you're in space and you're looking at the earth, this earthquake happens, and you just see the earth cracking open all over the place. These massive, wide canyons open up. And so buildings, houses, factories, cars, airports, people fall into these cracks. People are literally trapped inside the earth. Well, this causes another problem. Verse 12, the earthquake gives way to this. The sun became black as sackcloth made of hair. All it means is that the sun went dark. The sun goes dark. How? What's going on here? In a global earthquake, you have the global breaking of the earth's crust. And what is under the earth's crust? Lava. So when you have the worldwide breaking of the earth's crust, you have the worldwide releasing of lava all over the planet. Lava comes out of the earth pretty hot, right? And so as it's spewing and shooting and pouring all over the place, it's burning everything. Fields and trees and forests and homes. And as that smoke and as that fire and as the fumes from burning wood and burning plastic and burning rubber and burning paint and burning metal, as all of those fumes and the smoke, and as it rises up, it covers over the sun. And it may be 12 o'clock in the afternoon, but it looks like it's 12 midnight. The thing goes dark. And for people in the world where it's nighttime, they look up at the moon, and the moon doesn't look like the moon. It says, and the whole moon became like blood. What is this? All the ash and the smoke and the fumes, it eclipses over, it covers over the moon, and it gives it a red light tint. And just so you know, and this is something amazing to me, all the way back in the Old Testament, God prophesied of this day coming. Isaiah 13:10, it says, the sun will be dark when it rises, and the moon will not shed its light. Joel 2:31, the sun will be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood. Does that sound familiar? We just read that all the way in the end of the book of Revelation. It'll be turned to blood. And when is that going to happen? He says, before the great and awesome day of the Lord. What happens before the great and awesome day of the Lord's coming? The tribulation of what we're talking about right here. Can you imagine what everyday life is going to be like at this point? How many of you have ever had a night guard job? I mean, a night shift job where you're not used to that, and you go from working during the day to working night, and all of a sudden it's like, it's day, and your body's telling you it's supposed to be night, and it's night, and your body's telling you it's supposed to be day. It's really hard to get used to that. Well, when this happens, light will be totally removed from the equation of life. It's just going to be dark, at best very dim at all times. Then something else happens. Verse 13. It says, and the stars of the sky fell to the earth. It'll be like this, like a fig tree casting unripe figs when shaken by a great wind. Now, I've heard people preach on this and say that you go outside at nighttime and you look up in the sky and the stars you see twinkling. Well, in this judgment, those stars come crashing down to the earth. That is not what this is talking about. Just to show you that, a sun and a star is the same thing. The only difference is, if planets revolve around it, you call it a sun. If planets don't revolve around it, you call it a star. Well, just imagine if it says many stars or many suns, if they were to come crashing down to the earth. Now, just take our sun, the star that we revolve around. 1.3 million Earths could fit inside it. If that came crashing down to the earth, what would happen? There'd be no earth for Jesus to come back to, right? Just the mere heat from it would incinerate the earth before it even made contact with the earth. This is talking about a bombardment of asteroids coming down from the sky, bombarding the earth. They tell us that asteroids shoot at the earth all the time, but we don't know it because they burn up as they enter into the atmosphere, or by the time they hit the ground, they're so small that we cannot feel their impact. Well, these asteroids, they are not going to burn up in the atmosphere, and they're not going to be so small that the world will not feel their impact. The whole world is going to hear them, the whole world is going to see them, and the whole world is going to feel them. He gives this analogy of like a strong wind comes and blows by a fruit tree, and that fruit tree throws all its fruit onto the ground. He says that's what it's going to be like. It will be thousands, millions of asteroids bombarding the atmosphere, crashing into the earth. It's going to be so bad that it says, verse 14, the sky will split apart like a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. Isaiah 34:4 says the same thing. It says the sky will be rolled up like a scroll. Listen, this is crazy. This is the destruction of the atmosphere of the earth. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine going outside and where's the atmosphere? And it's just gone. I'll tell you what this is. This is real global warming. Every one of us, when we get home, we need to write a letter to our government, who are spending millions and millions of dollars trying to prevent global warming. We need to write a letter to them and say, we just want to let you know, there will be no such thing as global warming until the sixth seal of the tribulation, so you need to quit wasting all of our money on that kind of stuff. And when this global warming happens, it won't be a gradual global warming, will it? It's going to be an instant, and there ain't no regulations that the EPA can pass that'll help it at all. He uses this picture of a scroll unrolled. Imagine you take a scroll and you roll it out, and then you cut it down the middle. What happens? Those two ends roll up into themselves. That's when people are looking up into the sky, that's what the sky is going to be doing. These asteroids are going to be destroying the atmosphere, unrolling the sky. And then this. He says, every mountain, and notice now, not some mountains, not a few mountains. Every mountain and every island will be moved out of their places. When I was studying this, here's what came to my mind. This is insanity. Every mountain you've ever seen, every island that there is, every section of land, it ain't where it used to be. The flight to Hawaii just got longer. Antarctica ain't near as cold anymore because now it's closer to the equator. You can't drive to Florida anymore. It just broke off from America, literally. The destruction from the earthquakes, from the asteroids, from the volcanic eruption, it is so going to destabilize the earth that the earth will literally change. It will be being torn to pieces. Now, what is all this madness going to cause? Why does God want to do all this? He is unleashing this judgment, the judgment of fear. He is causing the world to be absolutely panicked out of their minds. And it'll hit everybody. Verse 15, then the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the commanders, and the rich, and the strong, and every slave, and every free man, every one of them. What this is saying is that everybody hid themselves in the caves and among the rocks of the mountains. Why are they hiding? Because they're scared to death. They are scared out of their mind. You know, in society, we have the totem pole, right? You got the upper class, the middle class, the lower class. You got the haves and the have-nots. Well, when this happens, you're going to look in this cave and you're going to see kings and you're going to see slaves and you're going to see rich people and you're going to see no-name nobodies, and they're all going to be together and they're all going to be doing the same thing. Hiding for their lives, scared to death. There will no longer be the haves and the have-nots. Everybody will be the have-nots. And all of them will be wanting the same thing. They said to the mountains and to the rocks. Now, y'all, when you get to talking to mountains and rocks, something's going on, something's wrong upstairs, right? I mean, this fear has absolutely caused them to just go intellectually wild. They are talking to the mountains, they are talking to the rocks, and they are asking this: fall on us and hide us from the presence of Him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of their wrath has come, and who is able to stand? These people have gotten themselves into a lose-lose situation. Instead of listening to the Christians, what did they do? They ignored them and they killed them. Well, now, they've seen the earthquakes. They've seen the volcanic eruptions. They've seen the ash storms. They've seen the destruction of the atmosphere. They've seen how this mountain was over here, now it's over there, and that island was over here, now it's... They have seen the absolute havoc that is unleashed on the earth, and they cannot help but to acknowledge that this is the judgment of the real God. And they are scared out of their minds. Now, why don't, like at this point in time, this would be a great opportunity for them to say, you know what? I'm going to turn from my sin. I'm going to get right with God. Wouldn't you agree? You know, instead of saying, mountains, will you please just follow me and kill me? Why don't you get right with God? Here's where it gets really scary. They can't. Whoa, now hold on. The Bible says today is the day of salvation. What are you talking about? What do you mean they can't get right with God? They can't get right with God. Go back to 2 Thessalonians. This is the same passage we looked at earlier. Same context, end of times, tribulation. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and verse 11. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, in verse 11. Watch this. For this reason, not the devil, not the Antichrist, but who? God will send upon them, that's everybody living, all the non-Christians at this point in the tribulation, He will send upon them a deluding influence. Why? Why is God going to do that? So that they will believe what is false. God is going to personally send upon them a deluding influence so that they will believe what is false. Now, why in the world would God do such a thing? Verse 12. In order that they all may be what? Judged. And why? Why are they being judged? Because they did not believe the truth, but took pleasure in wickedness. How many of you would acknowledge that there was a time in your life when you did not believe the truth? There was a time in your life when your life was not surrendered to Jesus Christ. Every hand should be raised. That we were once all dead in trespasses and sins, right? So, with these people though, it's that they rejected Christ over and over. Listen, they not only had their lifespan leading up to the tribulation, they had these 4 years of the tribulation up to this point. And over and over and over they said no. They hardened their hearts over and over and over. And so finally God hardened their hearts for good. God has finally closed the door of salvation on them. They can't get right with God. They can't get saved. And here they are. They are so terrified in this worldwide judgment that the cry of their heart is, I just want to die and get it over with. Just let me go ahead and die. What they fail to realize, though, is that far worse than being crushed by a rock is falling into the hands of an angry God. That's part of the deluding influence. Hebrews 10:31, it is a terrifying thing to fall into the hands of the living God. Maybe you're here today and Jesus is a part of your life. And you think the word of Jesus, you are pro-Jesus. And you believe the right things, and you try to do the right things, you try to live a good life, and you teach your kids to believe in God, you teach your grandkids to believe in God. You're doing all the right things. However, your life is not surrendered to the Lordship of Jesus Christ. Now, you have deceived yourself for so long into believing that you are saved. But y'all, if your life's not surrendered to Jesus Christ, you have absolutely no reason to believe that you're saved. So many people go their whole lives saying, well, I went to church, I did the right things, I believed the right things, so bless God, I know when I die, I'm going to go to heaven. And then they stand at judgment and they hear these dreadful words from Jesus, depart from me, I never knew. Now, I want to ask you this question.